When it comes to wealth, the conversation often extends beyond the balance sheet to the realm of ethical responsibility. So what moral obligations do the wealthy have? Philanthropy is a direct route, donating to causes that resonate with your values. But there's more. Social responsibility means using your wealth to create positive community change, whether it's job creation or supporting education. Then comes ethical investing, a growing trend where your dollars back companies that align with your moral compass. But responsibility does not end there. Legacy planning ensures your ethical footprint lasts beyond your lifetime, affecting how you set up trusts and wills. And let's not forget the unique moral dilemmas the wealthy face, from tax planning to the ethics of accumulation. Ultimately, the responsibility of wealth isn't just about what you have, it's about how you use it to engage with society and drive positive change. Heather, I see ethical investing is growing in interest, and it is very much a growing trend. Lots of dollars have moved in that direction. How do you guide ultra high net worth families in aligning their investments with their values?
So we step back, and values become one of the first foundations that we talk about. So we guide families through conversations where we are just trying to draw out what each member of the family believes and what they value and why, and what that value means to them. And from there, we're able to find that commonality that we were talking about earlier in the conversation. So one of the resistance that families have to starting to get talking is, hey, I don't think we're going to get common agreement, or people think so differently. But I've never been in a family where we can't at least find one value that's in common. And so getting that dialogue happening and then focusing in on the commonalities and building that foundation for impact from there, whether that be philanthropy, whether that be a really practical application in the community that they can use as a lever to make a greater impact. So values really are the foundation. I always like to say, just like asset allocation is the cornerstone of investing, values are the cornerstone of family legacy planning, and then they intersect to be able to create that estate planning.
Caleb, where do you see interest at Investopedia when it comes to ESG and ethical investing?
Yeah, well, ESG had a tough year just because of all the greenwashing, and it kind of got dragged a little bit there. But I think that there is a very strong desire for people to put their money where their hearts are, especially, I don't want to, age people, but younger generations. You see that over and over again. When we survey our readers, and we do it every 2 months, we're asking them that question. Do you believe in investing where your heart is? Do you believe in screening companies out or including them so you have a voice in voting in their shareholder proxies? And a lot of people want this, and they're looking for the right vehicles to do it. And I don't think, even though there's so many index funds, ETFs, mutual funds, individual stocks that promise to be that, I don't think we've landed on something that people universally agree on is the right vehicle to invest along with their sensibilities. It has to be customized. So I know in my portfolio with my advisor, my wife and I really do not want fossil fuels in our portfolio. It's complicated for them because they have a lot of indexes, but they use really good software to screen out for us the companies we don't want in there. And we're able to build the kind of portfolio we feel good about, and we feel good about making money with. So I think we're a classic example of that. But if you look even in the younger generations, it's something they want even more access to, and they want to understand it a little bit better.
Dr. John, I want to ask your opinion. What are the moral obligations of the wealthy, and how can they navigate these effectively?
Well, there's a law called the law of heuristic escalation in sociology that says that any human being that has a set of priorities will run into somebody who has the complete opposite set of values. Montaigne traveled over the world looking for a universal value system. And as Heather was just describing, it's not easy to find the common denominator because there's complementations of opposites in even families, let alone in societies. So what one person may consider great, another person may not. One's a pro-lifer, one's a pro-aborter, one's a pro-guns, one's anti-guns. So I say you have to transcend the moral hypocrisies that exist on the planet when you're trying to do and pick things, and know that you're going to be labeled by somebody, liked and disliked, supported and challenged. You're going to get the pairs of opposites. It's a philosophical standard thing. Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, talked about the unity of opposites, and it still hasn't changed since. And that was 2,500 years ago. So you're not going to make and pick something that's not going to have somebody that's going to both like it and dislike it. And they're going to label it good or bad. And you have to transcend the labels and go and do something that's deeply meaningful. As Aristotle said, the excess and deficiencies has a golden mean between it. And finding the golden mean that's truly meaningful to you, and knowing you're going to be liked and disliked and labeled as a result of that, that's part of the process. So you have to do something that's truly meaningful to yourself and try your best to communicate that as effectively as possible in other people's values, so you have the less retaliation possible in the pursuit. But finding something that's deeply meaningful, that's really from the heart, is an essential component, because it's your fulfillment in life. You're working your life to do something that's meaningful. And as you know, when you're doing philanthropy, I did an article for Jet Set magazine on philanthropy, and I found some interesting stats on a lot of philanthropy. A lot of the money going to philanthropy is not actually being used for what people think. So it's wise to know exactly where those dollars are going when you give to something, so you're not hoodwinkled into thinking it and it's ending up going to a marketing arm or something. It's not actually getting the result. So make sure it does that, and make sure it doesn't rob people of dignity, responsibility, productivity, and and the things that make them be alive. Don't rob people of life by giving them money. Don't give them something for nothing and then rob them of their own dignity and their productivity and their responsibilities in life. Make sure it's something that's meaningful and that really helps people.
Well, I do want to mention Chuck Feeney, who just recently passed away. One of my favorite stories, because he owned one of the early duty-free shopping chains and became a billionaire. Worked his way up from very modest means growing up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, but he very quietly was donating to causes that were dear to him, and then made a goal or an objective to give away all of his money during his lifetime, and inspired Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and others. He just passed away at 92 and successfully reached his goal. He had given away essentially all of his money just a few years ago. So just making a huge impact. Daniele, any final thoughts?
I think it's interesting to me how there are examples of several societies over time where people in a position of wealth and power made the mistake of thinking that their wealth and power could be disconnected by the health of the society they lived in. So the feeling was, hey, I'm still doing great. Stuff is fantastic for me. Maybe not even I'm doing great. I'm even improving my profits. And so what if the rest of society is going to hell? That's too bad for them, but that really doesn't affect me. Aside for the ethical implications of that line of thinking, even on a practical level, that's an illusion. Because, the illusion that you can have everything crumbling around you, that you can have communities crumbling around you, and that somehow that's not going to affect you. Maybe it's not going to affect you now, maybe it's not going to affect you in 10 years, but it is affecting something that you are part of. And as such, the notion that this idea of separation, that your wealth and well-being is completely disconnected by the wealth and well-being of the society at large, I think is reassuring, because of course you can do something about your own immediate circumstances, and it's much harder to affect society at large, but it's still based on an illusion that eventually the bill is going to come for that. And you've seen it over and over again, where certain modifications would be needed to fix some social problems. People in a position of power are really uninterested in doing so, because it would cost them time, energy, and money that they don't feel like parting with. And one generations down the road, just to their kids' generation, that society implodes because some adjustments have not been made where they needed to be made. So I think, there's a way of thinking that some of this is about being altruistic. And sure, there's something nice about that, but also there's a level of enlightened selfishness about it. It's precisely because you want your stuff to continue. You recognize that it cannot continue unless conditions in the community surrounding you are sustainable. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen.
Well, I want to thank our panelists this evening for a very valuable discussion, a very thought-provoking discussion. I think that we covered many important aspects of wealth and legacy, the importance of communication, the importance of family preparation, of establishing a plan, of educating yourself and your family members. And I love the idea of values as a cornerstone in legacy planning. So all great topics. Please visit our panelists. You can find more from Heather Winslow-Walker at Vanguard.com. Dr. John Demartini, who speaks like a guy who has read 30,000 books. You can find him at drdemartini.com. Thank you, Daniele Bolelli. He's at danielebolelli.com. And Caleb Silver, Investopedia.com. All great resources. Thank you very much once again to our panelists. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you're listening or watching at youtube.com, find us next week where we are going to be talking about, I don't have it in front of me, but I guarantee it will be a great show. It's on October 25th, 6 p.m. Eastern, episode 11. The title, I've got it. The Psychology of Spending, Understanding Your Money Habits. Until then, please do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.